Special thank you to the following patron for their continued and generous support. If you'd like to support my future content creator endeavors and get early access to videos like this one, head over to patreon.com/PSYLOD and pledge at whatever tier you're most comfortable with. Now onto the video. If you know me personally or watch my content, chances are that you've heard me babble on about certain things more than once over the years, regardless of if one has a YouTube channel or not, to preserve a snapshot of that hyperfixation or hyperfixations. I'm sure many of you out there that consume media have heard of or talked about brain rot, and this applies to anything, be it specific characters in specific series, the series themselves, or maybe even the actual medium that content is actually housed in digitally on any device or physically on very specific devices. But regardless of how you're consuming that media, I feel as though you don't spend time with the fictional material laid out by the artist without taking something away from what you just consumed. Many different people have many different reasons they get attached to these characters, along with the worlds they're a part of, and there are varying circumstances that explain the why and how that attachment just continued to sprout and grow for the individual. And again, I'm sure all of you out there have varying reasons as to why you get attached to certain things, whether if it's friends or other individuals I'm meeting for the first time. I love hearing the stories of why certain elements stuck out to them, and why I should watch it too. And after thinking about it for a while, I admittedly had a brain rot for thinking about how brain rot works, and I figured that I'd share the perception that I've garnered from observing others and myself in video form. And that ties into what I want to begin with, embracing the ride and being in the present, especially considering how much has accumulated over the years, as things just continue to release and time just swoops by without any warning. Let's start out with the main things that make us aware of these imminent releases: trailers and promotional material, the very thing that have been big key contributors to really establishing that fixation among audiences and individuals alike. On a personal level, when I get excited for something I want to see, I just go along for the ride, and it's truthfully much easier to get excited for something that I know. When I see a familiar name, be it a director or a studio, I'm going to immediately start salivating over what's to come, regardless of how these particular products turn out, good or bad. The fixation does admittedly creep their way into my brain because I know who's behind the project, since they've satisfied me in the past, regardless of if its particular franchise has been gone or not. Actually, if a franchise has been gone for a while, I'll probably be even more excited than normal to see it come back, since I truthfully wasn't expecting it to. And again, sometimes these things coming from those particular artists that I know will absolutely stick with me and I'll never shut up about them, and other times I'm sitting there blankly as I realize that whatever new thing the creator conjured up isn't for me. Now, let's just flip this discussion around for a moment towards an area of things I don't know. What I seem to find in my own experiences is it's semi-rare for me to start developing a brain rot for something that, at the time, was completely brand new to me when I was first exposed to its existence. And most of the time, I experienced those particular pieces of media beyond their hype phase post-release, which ends up making me watch it first and then going back to find the original trailers, though that doesn't mean I'm unable to catch them while they're considered quote-unquote fresh. Whether if I decide to dive headfirst into something I've never experienced before, be it from a friend's recommendation, or just out of curiosity when browsing around on my own, I think both have their merits to them. Whether or not my love begins to cement for the new thing I began to consume always remains to be seen on a case-by-case basis. And again, sometimes it does and it's the only thing I'm going to be thinking about, and sometimes it doesn't and I just kind of forget about it. Now, I know I've signaled out very specific games when talking about things that didn't stick with me, but the question you may be asking yourself is, would you ever try them again? Absolutely. It'd be unfair of me to say that I'd leave them in the dust forever. Just gotta make my way back as soon as I can somehow fidget towards them in the backlog of games that I'm already playing or still want to complete. And I don't know if anyone else does this, but when I get hooked onto something in particular that just happens to captivate me, I'll be fully immersed in it to the point where I want nearly all my media consumption to be this particular style. Just to name a few examples, if I'm itching for a graphic novel or comic-esque piece of entertainment to completely take over, get it? I'm so bad, I'm sorry. Take over my time, I'll find that fix in games like these. Or maybe I want some pure, unapologetic, epic action. I'll be looking towards something like this movie or that. Or how about satisfying the craving to play something spooky and tense? Well, you get the idea. Regardless of how everything mixes and matches at the end of the day, whether or not their unique styles and genres are one and the same, and no matter how old they are, the forefront of everything, regardless of their different styles, finds middle ground with my enjoyment in that moment. But like any moment, even If these moments of brain rot hit hard, it can be gone in a flash, and this is the stage where the dust begins to settle, so to speak. No matter how bright a torch may burn in the moment, eventually they do fizzle out over time. Whether I want to deny it or not, that's just how it goes, not just for me, but what trends across the World Wide Web. Something's catching myself or everyone's attention one day, and the next day, it's off to the next one. I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit maddening, so sometimes, if not most of the time, I tend to just go back and enjoy something I already enjoy from the past instead of keeping up with what's fresh and new. Not that I don't keep an eye on it, of course, but since content's annually available on demand, assuming they don't remove it from their online services, they'll usually be there if I ever want to go back around to them. As someone that does try to archive as much footage as I can when playing my games so I can use them for video essays like this one, I'm lucky in that sense where I can look back at those moments in high quality, assuming 1080p still counts as high quality anyway, the very moment I was in those specific stages, doing those specific things. 100% of the time, I truthfully don't remember the full day of events that ensued on the same dates of the gameplay recordings, but the time of recording does make me remember a general snapshot of what life was like for me when the recording was made. I have very different reactions to what I'm watching depending on the footage itself, and depending on what I was playing. Sometimes I sit there smiling, thinking about how far I've come since those times, and other times I just kinda sit there, insatiably longing for times that have already passed. And that goes for both when I made the recording and when the particular game came out. I'll get sad for a while as I reflect on what's come and gone, but at the end of it all, there's a future ahead of me, waiting for me. That future can be scary, and I may not want to go towards it, even if time demands that my mortal self must continue going forward, since it's impossible to turn back. But that doesn't mean I can't hold on to past experiences and take those memories with me, thus maintaining that remembrance of what once was, while looking forward to what's yet to be. And when I do maintain a remembrance of those moments, even the simpler ones that may not seem like a big deal to others, I have enormous feelings of gratitude that settle into my mind, thus allowing my sadness to slowly begin to heal as I brace myself for what's ahead. I may not be able to relive the specific dates when these particular products first emerged and were put into my hands after what I can imagine endless hours of labor from the creator's side, along with their team, but that doesn't mean I can't revisit them from time to time. And in an industry where nostalgia does have a particularly strong selling point, I'd say it's heavily encouraged. Though, on the off chance nostalgia kicks in at random, there are points of personal reemergences that I can't explain, since some old brain rots will reemerge without warning, and quite literally, crash out of the blue. Other times though, I do deliberately revisit and get excited for them all over again, as I consume the actual product itself once more, or perhaps revisit its various promotional material. And believe it or not, the same can go for the products I may not have been particularly as fond of in the past, or rather, I grew to dislike them as time went on. I may have grown to dislike them over time, but they too, just like the things I absolutely adore, still hold memories of times when I first experienced them, since nostalgia is generated from those initial experiences all those years ago. Just remember to keep an open mind to the new things coming to the forefront. They may well become another product that audiences will become nostalgic for, as they cherish their time with it. And they already have. Or, as I've discussed before in experiencing things I've never seen before beyond their hype phase, look around, see what's considered untouched in your personal library, and embrace what's in front of you to create new memories. But while creating those new memories, don't forget to cherish those old memories, since that same appreciation that has you cherish your time with those pieces of art will one day allow you to present a thorough insight to others willing to listen as to why you enjoyed it the way you did, and why they should too. On that note, one last thing. I love nothing more than sharing media experiences with others. It can be as simple as going to the movie theater with friends and family to catch a highly anticipated film, or showing something to someone in one's household from their computer, be it in person or online. Now I want to talk about that second point a little more, though that doesn't mean it's impossible for this to occur for the first point. Exposing someone to a series they've never experienced before is both blissful and interesting, especially if they take a particular liking to what I'm showing them in that moment. And as the old saying goes, what goes around comes around. If the conversation ever does get to that point, they may be able to get a sense of what kinds of entertainment I may be into, and they'll be able to reciprocate by saying, "Hey, try this thing out," which allows us to continue going back and forward to keep our entertainment libraries fresh. Even if they somehow don't, I obviously won't force it on them. Those products, like the many others I've come to love and cherish over the years, will be things that I'll continuously go back to, so I can remember my time spent with them, and I eagerly await every minute I get to spend some time with my friends and family, since while enjoying them on my own is good enough on its own, I can honestly say that when we all get together to enjoy it as a singular unit, it's a worthwhile experience in itself, worth cherishing. And with that, we've come to the end of my Brainrot exploration. This whole video conversation that I had with you all kind of fits into why I've been gone for so long. It's nearly been a year, and my life and my perception of things that I thought were impossible have changed ever since 2022. Now that's a good thing. Life's been good. New career's been good, but it did come with a price. Because of those new things I've had to dedicate my time to this past year, thanks to my new career opportunity, I've fallen behind on the YouTube projects I was working on last year. Even now, most of my time is dedicated to keeping my efforts focused on my new career path, leaving me with limited time to concentrate on my efforts here on YouTube. And due to being away from them for so long, my desire to work on them grew slimmer. Hell, I'll be honest with ya, even being away from the content creator game for so long has kinda gotten me into a slump. When you feel burnt out, you feel things that, while they may not be true, they still swirl in your mind anyway. So ever since then, to try and lift up my spirits once more, to ignite that creative spark that I previously lost, I've had to come up with newer ideas that excited me more in order to keep moving forward, instead of trying to force the writing of something I knew wasn't going to work anymore. That said, that doesn't mean that those projects are permanently cancelled. I will return to those projects and complete them, but only when I decide that it's the right time, since I'm still interested in putting those long-form reviews together. But for the time being, I'd say that I've been feeling much better pursuing those other different topics, and I really enjoyed putting together a shorter form video essay like this one. So, this will be the immediate future of my channel that, going forward, I want to continue maintaining consistently, while I focus on balancing my new career and personal life. Every 3 to 4 months, I'm going to be releasing a maximum of 4 video essays, or a minimum of 2, if life really starts to get in my way. And on that 3rd or 4th month, I'll be aiming to have out 1 review on the channel. Having it this way, I feel, will allow me to maintain a form of consistency, finally, without disappearing for long periods of time like I have in the past over and over again. Whether or not I will have more time and energy to produce more on my own remains to be seen. And as a follow-up to that statement, if you want to help me put more time into this YouTube endeavor so I can possibly make this a bigger part of my livelihood, I've got a Patreon. So if that interests you and you wish to support my endeavors further, head over to patreon.com/PSYLODV and pledge at whatever tier you're most comfortable with. On that note, a big special thank you to Gem2475 and my other patrons for their continuous support, especially during my long hiatus. I sincerely won't forget it, especially considering how long I've been gone, and this is only the beginning of me getting back on my feet. So guys, seriously, thank you so much for helping me out. So until next time everyone, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.